Hello friends, welcome to another video. Today's book is The Butchering Art, Joseph Lister's Quest to Transform the Grisly World of Victorian Medicine by Lindsay Fitzharris. Hi Rye, this is definitely not one of my normal books. Come here. Oh, this one is one of the 12 books recommended by 12 friends. And it was recommended by a very good dear friend of mine, Jess, and she will be happy for the shout out. She also has the matching hat. We have matching hats. That's why I'm wearing it today, that she also has the same one. It looks silly in the video, I think, but anyway, she has the same hat. Love you, girl. It is also St. Patty's Day today. That's why I'm wearing green. If you celebrate, if you don't, good for you, doesn't matter. Either way, celebrate or don't, I don't care. I like to dress up because it's fun. I also got this book from my library. They didn't have it at the Kindale Library, so I ordered it or requested it through the system, and they got it mailed to the Kindale Library for me to pick up to read. I don't know which library it's from, Cornerbrook, from the Cornerbrook Library, so not that far. It is, what is the word? It's nonfiction, because I don't read nonfiction, so it escaped my mind what I was reading. This is a nonfiction book. It is actually the truth about Joseph Lister, who is, in medical world, very famous surgeon who revolutionized the surgery and the medical world in general. It's written mostly like a novel, though, which is nice. It doesn't read like a textbook at all, which would drive me nuts. I honestly thought, sorry Jess, love you, your taste in books is strange. I honestly thought it would be a DNF, do not finish, but I was happily surprised. I will read the little inscription for you. In The Butchering Art, the historian Lindsay Fitzharris reveals the shocking world of 19th century surgery on the eve of profound transformation. She conjures up early operating theaters, no place for the squeamish, and surgeons working before anesthesia who were lauded for their speed and brute strength. These medical pioneers knew that the aftermath of surgery was often more dangerous than their patients' afflictions, and they were baffled by the persistent infections that kept mortality rates stubbornly high. At a time when surgery couldn't have been more hazardous, an unlikely figure stepped forward, a young, melancholy Quaker surgeon named Joseph Lister, who would solve the deadly riddle and change the course of history. Fitzharris dramatically recounts Lister's discoveries in gripping detail, culminating in his audacious claim that germs were the source of all infection and could be countered by antiseptics. Focusing on the tumultuous period from 1850 to 1875, she introduces us to Lister and his contemporaries, some of them brilliant, some outright criminal, and takes us through the grimy medical schools and dreary hospitals where they learned their art, the dead houses where they studied anatomy, and the graveyards they occasionally ransacked for cadavers. Eerie and illuminating, The Butchering Art celebrates the triumph of a visionary surgeon whose quest to unite science and medicine delivered us into the modern world. And that is exactly what the book is about. It's his world, his life, and she gets all the information because all of his stuff was kept and saved. All of the medical journals, all of his diaries, all of that was kept, and it was actually, they stated, spoilers guys, I am going to do some spoilers. It's kind of hard not to talk about this book without doing any spoilers, but at the end of the book, he states in his will that he wants his paperwork kept, but he wants all of his personal correspondence destroyed. And his family ignores that and saves all of his personal correspondence as well. So the book is very personable that way, where she actually includes little snippets of his letters with him and his father and his father-in-law and his mother and his sister. Like, I think that's a great personal touch, and it really humanizes the people. Like, when you read history books and stuff and you hear what people have done, you don't always really see them as real people. And this is a great book on how it takes his life and writes it like a novel. There are a lot of medical terms, and sometimes the way she has to insert other people's little pieces into the main story I could see it being confusing to some people if that's not the kind of thing you're used to, especially with some of the medical terminology. I personally had to slow down and reread some spots, especially because it was in the late 1800s, and some of the wording is strange. They call when I was reading the interest at the beginning there, it says that he's a Quaker. Some of you might not know, Quaker is a type of religion, branching off of Catholic Christianity kind of deal. And back then, especially, Quakers spoke with like these and thous and thys. So some of the letters from his father, especially, are like Shakespearean kind of writing. I said I thought I would struggle with this and not want to finish it, but I found it fascinating. I found it very interesting, the way she writes the history, because it doesn't read like a textbook at all, which is, I wish they did more. This, I would suggest medical students to read this, or if you're interested in medicine at all, I would check it out. Like, it's kind of cool because they don't just talk about Joseph Lister and his accomplishments. Like, they mention other things that happened in medicine in that era that totally changed how medicine is and how they modernized it. Not only like the other discoveries, like, because his main one is about using antiseptic and being clean. And like back at the beginning of the book, like, and still throughout it, like it takes a while for some of the doctors to admit that the way they've been doing it before is wrong and they need to change. Old men can be stubborn, can't they? They don't want to admit that they're wrong. But there's other marvels in there as well. That period, the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there are so many revolutionary things that happened. History is fascinating if it is told in the right way. Don't you think, Rye? You don't think so, do you? He's purring. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's purring quite loudly. Anyway, I've just been talking about it. I haven't really done a review the way I would review a novel because it doesn't have the same categories as a novel. Like, there aren't any plot holes because it is nonfiction. There weren't any twists thrown in because it is history. I can't really tell how the character develops because it is nonfiction history, and every person develops. Like, yes, he develops through the book, but it's history. It's not like the author, I can't judge the author on it because it's the truth. It really happened that way. It is definitely medical. There's very little about other parts of his life. They do talk about him getting married and other friendships that he has, but not into any kind of depth at all. It is mostly about his career and his research and him convincing the medical world to do things a different way. Like I said, I did enjoy it. I was happily surprised, and I did finish it. although it took me longer than it would for some novels, especially my usual genre of fantasy. But happily surprised, Jess. You'll like that. I would give it, for the category that it is for the history, a 5 out of 5 star rating, because it is a better way, in my opinion, to portray certain aspects of history than a textbook. It was more interesting, more captivating than just reading facts in a textbook. If you are interested in how they changed history, how they changed the medical field, I would definitely recommend it. It is not overly descriptive with gory stuff. Like, if you have a weak stomach, you can probably handle it. Like, they don't really go into depth in description of a lot of the surgeries and stuff like that. Like, they talk about blood and stuff, but they use medical terms for a lot of it. It's pretty clean. I wouldn't worry about, like, and there's no pictures or anything. It's a regular novel, all words. And they have an extensive glossary in the back of the things and where she got her information and such, which is, typical of history. But again, done in an interesting way. Thank you for the recommendation. I am glad to have broadened my horizons just a little bit more. And I hope you guys all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.